We got some playoff fever here in South Florida. Welcome to this edition of Game Changers. That's Mr. Kim Bokamper over there. And you know, this is a football guy, but he's really revved up about hockey. He's revved up about basketball. You are, aren't you?
We are. We got playoffs.
That's it, baby.
Basketball, hockey.
And you know what? And unlike last year, the Panthers disappointed us in a major way. It looks like they're trying to do something. We all know Mr. Kim Bokamper because he's a familiar face with the Miami Dolphin family, and he also graces us with these ugly shirts each and every week on Game Changers. Didn't change his wardrobe at all, but in case you haven't seen,
style. Jim, you wear the same thing every week.
It's true. I've become
boring.
I've become basic. It's true. You're right about that. But also joining us today, relative newcomer to the South Florida sports scene, CBS News Miami, Samantha Rivera. Samantha, you have to be the good luck charm because as soon as you got here, the team started winning.
I don't want to say I am or I'm not because I don't want to jinx it, but I mean,
she brought that Chicago good look down here and the Chicago hot dogs. So
that's what I'm saying. You know, the truth is
what it is.
The truth is the truth, as they say. All right, so Heat Knicks. We got to start off talking about them. It's 1-1. The series resuming here in Miami on Saturday. Of course, all eyes on Jimmy Butler, Bo, and his ankle. Now we heard that his ankle is swollen to the size of a baseball.
That's all right.
I think maybe now. It's about like this. Hey, John, can you get a tight shot of that ankle there?
It's like you stuck your mouthpiece down.
I think it's more, you know, this size now. Ooh, a little tender.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I've had that before. You strap that thing up tight. He probably wears a size 15. You put a 16 shoe on that thing, and you're good to go, my man.
Oh my
man,
you can go for 48 with that.
You were playing football. You weren't jumping and trying to leap over 6 or 7 footers. You know,
with an ankle like that, you jump a lot, Jim. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, having Jimmy out, look, that's 35 points a game. This guy's been averaging in the playoffs. To have him out, and you look at the Knicks, they came in that game and it looked like Randall maybe wouldn't play. You know, man, Brunson maybe wouldn't play, but they were all hands on deck, and they still had a hard time. They had a lot of help from the referees to beat the Heat. You're right. So I think the Heat really are in the catbird seat right now.
I think you're right. Mentally speaking, the Heat have to be pleased coming home 1-1, and Jimmy didn't even play game 2. I think, Samantha, that it is really going to be time at one point here for Bam Adebayo to step up and have a huge game because I think the Knicks have been laying off him a little bit, and Bam hasn't been aggressive offensively. I know he's asked to do an awful lot, but they need him to show up at least one game and be a serious offensive threat.
No, absolutely. You know what? And I do want to mention, you know, we talked to the guys today. Kevin Love said he didn't really get a sense of, you know, how Jimmy is doing, but every time he did see him, he was getting treatment. And obviously, you know, with him and with every other guy we were talking to, they said the same thing. You know, if you know Jimmy, you know he's going to want to be a competitor out there, and he's going to do everything he can to be out there.
Yeah, but my advice to Jimmy, hey, man, you know, listen, don't rush it. I remember Grant Hill way back in the day played on a sprained ankle, ended up breaking that thing, and he was never the same after that.
Look at how they played the last game. You know, you get Max Strus, you know, he's 4 points off his regular season average. He gives you a couple extra buckets, and you're in there. You gave Vincent's playing well for you. So you got a lot of guys playing well.
Caleb Martin.
It'd be nice to be able to steal a game without having Jimmy Butler having to play it and allow him to get healthy going into the next game. I think that would go a long way for the Heat. But you know, you get antsy if you're behind late in the game and the guy's sitting over there going, "Hey, coach, I can go."
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, I think the Heat probably would have stolen game 2 had Jimmy been able to play.
I agree.
Because it was there for the taking. It was his kind of game.
You know, Jim, I always get a little antsy, though, when I see Cody Zeller come running on the floor. For some reason.
Why? Because of his receding hair?
Well, and he's got that thing on his head and this and that. Hey, Jimmy, let me tell you what. He just don't look like a basketball player during this era. Maybe back in the day, you know, back when Phil Jackson was playing,
that's
you know,
true.
Those shoulders and stuff.
It's true.
Maybe back there, but he looks a little out of place.
He's definitely old school. Well, listen, to you, another point you made, I hope that the officials are different because they definitely hurt the Heat, Samantha, in game 2.
Well, listen, I think I'm going to try to play devil's advocate here and say, okay, if Spoelstra said, you know, he doesn't think it was the refs, they didn't do anything wrong, right?
They didn't do anything right.
But if
that's coach talk.
It shouldn't matter, right? If you get to the point where, oh my gosh, these calls are huge, right? It shouldn't get to that point. If you're the better team, you should be ahead.
It just seemed like it was funny towards the end of the game when it was crunch time. All the fouls seemed to be on this end of the court. And not that end of the court. And there were some ridiculous calls. When you got a guy coming over the back of Gabe Vincent, and dropping his elbow
and
on,
Vincent gets
called for it, there's something wrong there.
And to say nothing of the shot clock violation, it really wasn't, because, look, the ball actually grazed the rim, so that shouldn't have gone against the Heat either.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, look, the Heat has a great opportunity here, and let's be honest, did we really think the Heat were going to be in this position? Did we really think they were going to knock out the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games nonetheless, and here be again taking on the New York Knicks? So it's a great thing to see the Heat back in the postseason, and frankly doing so well and being so competitive. And boy, I can only wish they were at full strength, because then I think the Knicks would be like, you know.
Yeah, but you know what? The playoffs are becoming now very physical, the same like hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys get hurt in the playoffs that don't get hurt in the postseason because they're playing at a different level. I like the grittiness of both the NBA finals or the NBA playoffs and the hockey playoffs. You just see guys playing hard on both ends of the floor.
And they like it. They really do. Yeah, Kyle Lowry was talking about, he's like, physicality doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and they recognize that it's like throwbacks, right? The way they're playing is so physical, and they are welcoming it.
Yeah, well, Kyle Lowry definitely is an old school kind of guy, so I think that's good. Yeah. Well, speaking of the rough stuff, hey, the Panthers getting kind of rough, huh? They were rough enough to take care of the Boston Bruins, and now they're taking it to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're on the road again, and we're going to talk to Let's Go Home, baby, Mr. Steve Goldstein, coming up as Game Changers continues in a minute. Welcome back to Game Changers, and for the first time, this show is going international here in South Florida and also across the border, north of the border in Toronto, Canada. There's our man Steve Goldstein there, of course, with the Florida Panthers, who, man, are sizzling hot. They're the hottest thing on ice right now, Goldie.
It is amazing. I just want to know, Jim, how you let Bo Camper, played in 2 Super Bowls for the greatest coach ever, Don Shula, gets away with criticizing Cody Zeller when he's wearing that shirt.
That's an excellent point. Goldie wants to know, how can you criticize Cody Zeller when you're wearing that shirt?
Well, when Cody Zeller puts his shirt on, I'll criticize him a little more about that. What I want to do right now, Goldie, what's happening with the Panthers? Their power play, their special teams are about 0 for 4. They held the Leafs to. Huh? No power play goals for the Leafs. How about that?
Sergei Bobrovsky's getting it done too.
Yeah.
Well, it is amazing because it's now been 90 games, okay, and they keep taking all these penalties, and we all keep saying they got to stop taking penalties. You can't win like that. Well, they made the playoffs taking all the penalties. They beat the Boston Bruins taking all the penalties. Some have been close and borderline, Bo, to your point, but Bobrovsky was huge early in Game 1, making those saves, and I think in some ways it was a blessing in disguise because that really was the springboard to that Game 1 win in Toronto.
Goldie, it's interesting, you know, in the postseason, guys really make names for themselves in every sport, quite honestly. And we're seeing guys like Carter Verhaeghe, Brandon Montour do that for the Panthers. Look, I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of fans who are not diehard Panther fans who didn't really know these guys, but they certainly know their names now.
It is amazing. You know, Matthew Tkachuk has been unbelievable. He's meant everything to this team. But you talk about Verhaeghe winning Game 7. He scores the game winner in Game 1. Remember, he had the overtime goals last year. And with Tkachuk and Bennett on that same line, Sam Bennett's coming up big. And Brandon Montour had this great season. But to your point, Jim, it's one thing to do it in the regular season. It's a whole other thing to do it in the playoffs. 6 goals in 8 games to start off the playoffs, just amazing. And I tell you, got to give the coach a lot of credit. Paul Maurice, you know, a lot of people didn't think he should put Sergei Bobrovsky in there after Alex Lyon carried him to the playoffs.
That's true.
Bobrovsky has come in, and he's done the job. He's won all these games in a row against these top teams.
Well, listen, Bobrovsky got a lot of money to come here, as you know, Goldie, and frankly looked kind of shaky for a while, but has really stepped up his game. What has been the difference?
You know, it's a great question. Look, he was rested. He was healthy. He was probably a little bit angry. He probably feels like, hey, that's my net. Look, he's a competitive guy. You don't get to where he is in his career and win the 2 Vezina trophies without being a great competitor. He's a great worker. He's always the first guy out there on the ice. So I just think, you know, he got in there and he was rested. He was probably a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, something to prove, and he's taken off. Look, Boston scored some goals on him. He was good. He wasn't great, but he made the big save at the end of Game 5 to save the series, slammed the door in Game 7, and then Game 1 in Toronto. I thought that was a pure goalie win. The Panthers played well, but Bobrovsky was clearly the best player on either team.
Goldie, who's the player of game one? Was it Bobrovsky? Was it Tkachuk? Or was it Montour?
Well, it's a tough call, Bo, because Tkachuk was unbelievable. I mean, 3 assists, 9 hits.
Yeah.
They try to knock him down. They went after him, and when they get the hits on him, he doesn't even react. He doesn't get mad and jump up, and he just keeps on playing through it. So a tough call, but I'm going to go with Bobrovsky. What he did early in that game when they were shorthanded twice, and then late in the game was still in doubt at 2 goals. He made some amazing saves on Austin Matthews, one of the greatest shooters in the world. So game 1 MVP. Tkachuk was amazing, but I'll go with Bobrovsky.
Mm-hmm.
Goldie, how about Paul Maurice really sticking it to his old team?
Well, he's loving this, Samantha. I got to tell you, he was only in Toronto for a little while, but he is playing it up. He's so good with the media when you listen to him in the interviews, and he's thoroughly enjoying this. And, he told me, I said, how much are you enjoying this? This was during the Boston series, and Paul Maurice told me, I told these guys in training camp how hard we're going to have to work. How are you going to have to change a little bit of your offensive game to become a playoff team?
Yep.
And he told me during the Boston series, he goes, well, one thing, at least now they know I wasn't lying to them. Like, this is really hard stuff.
Yes, it is.
And they have been able to adjust, and they're playing playoff-style hockey.
Hey, Goldie, I have to ask you about this. You probably heard that the Panthers here, when this series comes back home, are not selling tickets here to people who are not American citizens. And I'm wondering how that is playing up there in Toronto, because they know that the Maple Leaf fans will travel anywhere to see their team play. So how is that being received up there?
Yeah, they did it for about the first 24 hours after they won Game 7 to get Panther fans to buy tickets, and then they opened it up so you can buy them from wherever now. Oh, Jim, Toronto, this thing, everything that happens is magnified. So they have talked about that a ton. They've talked about the 2 days off between Games 2 and 3 and Games 3 and 4. But hey, all the tickets are open, so their cash is green too. If they want to come on down and buy a ticket, bring it on.
There you go. All right, Goldie, listen, Mr. Beaucamper was kind enough to invite me out to Gulfstream Park. We're going to watch the Kentucky Derby together. And we understand that Panthers owner Vinny Viola has a horse in that race named Forte. So is that horse's Forte running fast? Because Bo and I want to know if we should put our money on that horse or if we just keep putting our money on his hockey team.
I think he's the favorite, huh, Joe? Huh, Gold?
He's one of the favorites. I think Wet Paint is right there with him. Forte is a great horse, won the Florida Derby with a great stretch run. I think it was Vinny to call Gary Bettman to probably get the game pushed to Sunday, so on Saturday he can go watch the Kentucky Derby and still make his game. I've been placing some wagers on Forte going back to the Breeders' Cup in November, so I'm not going to stop now. And hey, Vinny's hot with the hockey and the horses, so let's go. Hey, Bo, you got a suite over there at Gulfstream? What's going on?
Oh, come on, Bo's got the hookup, please. Absolutely.
Jim and I are going to be railbirds. We're going to be picking up the tickets off the ground and see who didn't cash in on it.
Exactly right. Goldie, thanks, man, so much. We absolutely love your calls with the Panthers, and the enthusiasm, man, is just infectious. I believe, frankly, it carries over to the team, and it's always exciting to call a game for a winning team. So let's hope that they can keep it going so you can keep it going, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Always good, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks.
Sounds good. All right, Steve Goldstein coming from Toronto. When we come back on Game Changers, hey, we got a big sports weekend right here in South Florida. Besides the Heat and Panthers coming home, Formula One is back in town. Start your engines. We'll be right back. Well, it's a big sports weekend here in South Florida, so what is a sports fan to do? Do you go watch the Heat, Game 3 Saturday? Do you watch the Panthers, Game 3 Sunday? Or do you go out to Hard Rock Stadium and watch Formula One? Man, oh man, oh man. I guess if you got time on your hands, you do all three, but that's pretty tough to do. So, Samantha, if it's up to you, if somebody's handing you a front row seat for each one, where are you going?
I'm going to take that free ticket. You said it's a free ticket, right?
Yeah.
We'll say it's free. I'll take the free ticket and just buy my other tickets.
But you're going to scalp your ticket and buy tickets for the other thing.
That's cheating.
You never said I couldn't.
That's practical. All right, let's say
she's working the TV business pretty good already.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But Formula One, Bo,
awesome.
To me, it's amazing how they transform hard rock.
It is incredible what they've done to that thing, and I think it's even better than it was last year. There's some concerns from the drivers last year.
About the track.
I think they've rectified that with the track, and then they've also put more enhancements. This is a true international event. When you come in, the money that's there, the money people are spending, the people are there. Go by any airport, go by Executive Airport in Fort Lauderdale, go by Miami, go by anywhere, and all you're going to see is private jets around there. It is a great, great event for Miami. But if I had my choice, because these guys, once you see like once a car gets in the front, he's there for the rest of the day.
Right.
And you can go have a snack until they get the checkered flag at the end. But for me, if it's me, I want to go see the Heat. I want to see the Heat, and I want to see them really. Look, I'd like to see this series get a little bit more like it was with Riley, and when you went back old school
Van Gundy.
with Van Gundy hanging around mornings. Just get that little Heat-Knicks rivalry retuned up a little bit.
It's pretty much already there.
It doesn't need to get full blaze, so let's get it smoldering a little bit more.
Right, it's pretty much full there, I'll tell you what. And I tend to agree with you. I think that the atmosphere there is phenomenal. But look, it's a tough call if you got to choose Heat versus Panthers because FLA Live Arena really gets rocking. And I'll tell you what, if those guys get a lead in that hockey game, the energy is really going to go up, Samantha.
No, honestly, it's crazy. I went to my first Panthers game ever last week, and it was just such an amazing atmosphere. And then I also got to say, I'm not used to listening to reggaeton being played at hockey games. That was the first time I think I've ever heard it.
It's probably the only place where they do it.
It's fun.
Welcome to South Florida. Hey, we're back with more Game Changers in a minute. We're going to play some trending roulette, so do not go away. Welcome back on Game Changers. Time now for us to pull some topics out of the hat. We called it Trending Roulette. Samantha Rivera, Kim Bokamper, and Samantha, since you're the new kid on the block here, we're going to let you go first. Have you heard about these Toronto haters up there?
Yeah, I have, and I think it's lame.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Because how is it? It's weird.
Yeah, so in case you don't know what we're talking about, so they have a group of fans who, no matter who the Maple Leafs are playing, will wear the jersey of the opposing team. Right. So now they're wearing Panther jerseys. They were wearing Tampa Bay Lightning jerseys. They were wearing Coyote jerseys during the season.
I can't stand that. Listen, coming from Chicago, I thought it was the weirdest thing when we would go to Bears games and you would see people in Packers jerseys. It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Well, Green Bay's not that far from Chicago, but I get your point. Yeah.
It's weird to me. I don't know.
They're not fans. They're agitators. That's all they are. They wear someone's jersey. Let me do that. You're not a fan. I could care less about those guys. Go sit up in the rafters somewhere.
They have nothing better to do.
Well, I'll tell you what. You haven't been to
and they don't look very good. They weren't very cute either. So.
Yeah, you haven't been to a Marlins game yet because when they play the Mets or a team like that, it's a plenty of New Yorkers. You see more Met jerseys there than you see Marlins jerseys. But that's a whole other topic.
They're doing all right, though.
That's true.
They're doing all right this year. Above 500.
Props to the Marlins so far. All right. Now, the other thing, Miami versus New York, it's kind of been a thing, as Bo said, going back to the day when P.J. Brown was tossing Charlie Ward around like a rag doll. And so now we got this celebrity thing. Who's got the better celebs? Hey, you got Floyd Money Mayweather. I guess he's claiming South Florida as a spot. DJ Khaled, of course, we know he's a Miami guy through and through. But there in New York, you got Aaron Rodgers. Bo, he just got there. And he's sitting in the front row time and time again. Trevor Noah, okay, I'll buy that. Okay, he's, I guess, a big time.
I'll tell you what.
Martha Stewart.
You come to Miami.
Still an A-lister?
But here's what's you come to Miami. You got the young stars. You got the new blood. I saw Jack Nicholson. They needed a wheelbarrow to get Jack Nicholson
into
the Staples Center. And then you got Spike Lee. Spike can't even stand up without a cane. They got to get some younger. They got to get younger out there. Miami is the hip town. These guys are old town and old school.
You're not wrong. There's more flavor in Miami people.
Yeah, well, there is some flavor here.
A lot of Geritol up in New New York and L.A. We don't got it down here.
Well, listen, Sauce Gardner, I tell you what, like you said with that chain, that sauce is dripping. Okay, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, well, Saucy's got a lot of sauce on him, so
he does.
He's going to be getting a lot more sauce as he goes along.
All right, we're going to see who's got the sauce, the Panthers or the Heat, as of course these playoffs roll on into the weekend. We'll be back next week to talk more about where the Heat and the Panthers stand, and hopefully we'll be talking about them being in position to be moving on to the next round. Wouldn't that be exciting? And then we can again say that Samantha Rivera is in fact the good luck charm, because so far so good for the teams with Samantha here in town.
Exactly. George Jefferson, moving on.
Moving on up. There you go.
There you go.
For Samantha Rivera and Mr. Kim Bokamper, I'm Jim Barry. We'll see you next week on Game Changers.